Today I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for drawing your Picasso faces or Picasso portraits. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your large newsprint paper. Now, one thing you need to know is this is very thin, so when you draw on it you want to draw lightly and erase lightly. I've actually have students who have drawn on this and ripped the paper, or erased and ripped the paper. So it's really thin, so you just need to be careful. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold the paper in half and then in half again. So you'll end up with 8 sections on your paper. And this is a pretty big section, so I'm going to actually fold it one more time just so that you can see my entire drawing here. Okay, so let's just pretend that this is a slightly larger size. And most students, when they start drawing, and what I found over time in teaching this particular lesson, is if students start with a typical face or the shape of a head, they have a harder time figuring out where to put all the different features. Now, one of the things you have to remember is Picasso, when he did his face, he may have turned eyes, having an eye look in this direction, or he may have an eye that's been turned so it's vertical, up and down. He may have a nose straight on and a mouth coming off over here, but he still kept the eyes, the nose, and the mouth in the same basic proper placement of the face. So one of the hard parts with starting with an oval like this is that it's a little bit more difficult to figure out what's going where and how that's going to work. So I came up with a slightly different way of teaching this so that you can have a little bit more fun and it's a little more creative. So instead of starting with a circle, what I do, and whether you want to use curved lines or diagonal lines, or straight lines I should say, or a combination of both, okay, I'm just right now starting off with a odd shape, okay? And so now with this odd shape, I can make a decision as to where I want to put things. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start and I'm going to say, okay, well, this to me looks like this would be kind of a cool kind of chin area. So maybe I decide that I want this to be kind of, maybe this becomes lips, and I add teeth over here to this side. And this becomes, here's my chin. Don't forget to put a neck so your face isn't floating. Okay. Maybe I decide that this is my nose. This is coming over. And my nose is coming up here. And you can always alter these lines if you want to. I like this idea. I kind of like this here, so maybe I do something up here, and maybe I put in an eye on this side. And maybe I have an eye looking forward over here. One thing you can do is you can change the size and scale of your features. Also, your features, notice I'm right here, you're seeing I'm using a fairly standard eye, kind of that oval shape, almond shape that Picasso used. But if you wanted to, you don't have to do that. You could do, you know, make it an angle. If I wanted to, I could make this eye square or rectangular. And so my eye could look like that if I chose to. Depending on how you like this, maybe you don't like that, so you alter the face this way. Could you add eyebrows? Are there eyelashes? What might you do for hair? And again, hair can be spiky, it can come down, it could be anything you want it to be. One thing I've also done, and you'll notice if you look on the wall for my samples, your hair doesn't have to necessarily be hair. I had, one of my examples is I had, you could make your hair out of, maybe your hair's out of leaves. That's a pretty bad looking leaf, but you get the basic idea. I had another student who really liked spaghetti and meatballs, so they did their hair all spaghetti and meatballs. So, I mean, have some fun with it. If you want to, when you add ears, if you have an ear in here, go ahead and add an earring. Or if you want to have a backwards baseball cap, you know. So maybe you're wearing a backwards baseball cap and hair is kind of popping down over here. Does your guy have, you know, a goatee? Is he wearing a goatee? Or does he have a mustache? Is he wearing glasses? So, is there a pair of glasses that's kind of coming over, or a monocle? Maybe that's being held up and kind of coming down. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can do this. One thing I want you to notice and see here is that look at how kind of thin my face is, okay? So I can get those features in and I don't have a lot of this extra space. Sometimes students, when they draw their shapes, their odd shapes, they tend to draw kind of very wide. And then when you put your features in, you end up with extra space in here that you don't really know what to do with. So if you could try, when you're doing this, try and make your shape so that it's got a lot of really interesting curves, whether you're coming angles, straight lines, okay? Try and keep this part of the face a little bit more narrow so that your space is looking like it's being used correctly, or used well, I should say, so that you don't have all this extra skin where it just looks like it's there and you're not quite sure what to do with it. So your job, put your name on your paper as well, your job is to come up with 6 really good finished sketches like this. And you have 8 spaces to work with, so you have 2 that if you really don't like it, you are not going to count. These will get graded, so you will get points for having done the 6 completed sketches based off of 10, which is 100%. One other thing I'm going to suggest, let's say you do 4 different faces, and let's say you really don't like anything about that face except for the eye. And on another sketch, you don't like anything on that face except for maybe the mouth and the hair. And another sketch, you really like how you did the nose, or you added another detail to it. Don't be afraid to take all those features and combine them together to create a completely new idea or a new drawing. So that is your goal. That is your mission. 6 really fun sketches, and then the next step will be choosing your one you want to do for your final, having me sign off on it, and my demonstrating to you how to transfer your design onto larger paper to be successful. So have a fun time designing. Can't wait to see what you come up with.